The diner was having a busy day. People from all over the galaxy came to eat at Starlight Diner on Station Meridian 7. The station floated in space between 3 major star systems. It was a place where everyone could meet safely. No fighting was allowed here, no wars. Just business and food and rest. Ji-won wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that hour. Her feet hurt. She had been working for 10 hours straight. 2 other waitresses had called in sick, so she had to cover their shifts. But she didn't complain. She needed the money. Earth was far away, and sending money home to her family cost a lot. The diner smelled like fried food and coffee. Strange music played from the speakers. It was a mix of sounds from different worlds. Some customers had 4 arms. Others had scales or fur. One creature in the corner looked like a floating jellyfish. Ji-won had learned not to stare. Everyone was just trying to eat their meal in peace. The door opened with a soft chime. Ji-won looked up from her cleaning. Her eyes went wide. 6 tall figures entered the diner. They wore dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their helmets covered their faces completely. Each one carried a weapon on their hip. They moved like soldiers, careful and ready for danger. The other customers noticed too. Conversations stopped. Some people slowly moved toward the exits. These were Imperial guards. Everyone in the galaxy knew what they looked like. They served the Drakmor Empire, the most powerful force in known space. The Drakmor were feared everywhere. They looked like dragons from Earth's old stories, but they were real. Very real. Behind the guards walked a small figure. He was maybe 6 years old. His scales were deep blue with hints of purple. They caught the light and seemed to glow softly. He wore expensive robes that dragged on the floor. A small crown sat on his head between 2 tiny horns. His eyes were golden like fire. This was Prince Teo, the son of the Dragon Emperor himself. "Oh no," whispered Daeshik, the diner manager. He stood behind the counter next to Ji-won. His face had gone pale. "Why are they here? Why would they come to my diner?" The guards spread out. They checked the room with their eyes, looking for threats. One of them spoke into a device on his wrist. Another stood directly behind the young prince. The little prince walked slowly to a booth near the window. He could see space outside. Stars sparkled in the darkness. A cargo ship drifted past, its lights blinking. The prince climbed onto the seat. His feet didn't touch the floor. He looked very small despite all his fancy clothes. One guard approached Daeshik. His voice was deep and cold. "Food for the prince. Your best meal, quickly." Daeshik nodded so fast his head might fall off. Yes, of course." "Right away." "Ji-won, go." "Take the order." Ji-won grabbed her datapad and walked to the prince's table. Her hands shook a little. She had never served royalty before. She had barely ever seen a Drakmor up close. They usually didn't come to places like this. "What would you like to eat?" she asked softly. The prince didn't answer. He stared out the window at the stars. His golden eyes looked sad, very sad. Ji-won noticed his little hands were clenched tight in his lap. "Your Highness?" She tried again. "Are you hungry?" Still nothing. The prince just stared and stared. One of the guards made an angry sound. "Bring him the special meal." "Whatever's good. He will eat it." Ji-won nodded and walked back to the kitchen. She gave the order to the cook, a 3-eyed alien named Bick who made the best space burgers in the sector. While she waited, she watched the prince through the window in the kitchen door. He still hadn't moved. He sat perfectly still, looking at the stars. Something was wrong. Ji-won had a younger brother back on Earth. She knew what a sad child looked like. This prince, for all his power and wealth, looked very sad. The food came out fast. Bick had made something special. A beautiful plate with foods from 5 different worlds. It smelled amazing. Ji-won carried it carefully to the table. She set it down in front of the prince. "Here you go," she said gently. "I hope you like it." The prince looked at the food. Then he looked at Ji-won. His golden eyes met her brown ones. For a moment she saw something in those eyes. Pain, loneliness, loss. Then his face twisted, his mouth opened, and he began to cry. It wasn't a normal cry. It was a wail, a scream of pure sadness that seemed to come from deep inside him. The sound filled the entire diner. It was so loud that Ji-won had to cover her ears. The plates on the tables began to rattle. The windows vibrated. The lights flickered. The prince's scales started to glow brighter. Blue light poured from him like water. Energy crackled in the air around his body. Small objects near him began to float. A salt shaker rose off the table. Then a fork. Then a napkin dispenser. The customers panicked. A family of bird-like aliens rushed for the door. The jellyfish creature zoomed away so fast it left a trail of slime. Others ducked under tables or pressed themselves against walls. The power of the crying prince was growing. The whole diner shook. "Do something!" Daishik screamed at the guards. "He's going to destroy my diner." The guards stood frozen. They looked at each other. None of them moved toward the prince. None of them tried to comfort him. They just stood there like statues while the child screamed and cried and made the walls shake. "Why aren't you helping him?" G1 shouted at them over the noise. "He's just a little boy." One guard turned his helmeted face toward her. "We cannot touch the prince. It is forbidden. Only those of royal blood may touch the emperor's heir." "That's crazy," G1 said. "He's scared. He needs help." "It is the law," the guard said. His voice had no emotion. "We must protect him. We cannot comfort him." The crying got louder. The glow got brighter. A crack appeared in one of the windows. The whole station must be able to hear this now. Station security would come soon. This would become a huge incident. Maybe even a war if something happened to the prince. Daishik grabbed G1's arm. "We have to get them to leave. Now! Before he breaks everything. Before someone gets hurt. Tell them to go." But G1 wasn't looking at her manager. She was looking at the little prince. She saw past the glowing scales and the floating objects and the cracking windows. She saw a child, a very sad, very lonely child. A child who needed help that no one was giving him. Something in her heart made a decision. Her younger brother used to cry like this when their mother went away for work. Back then, G1 would hold him until he calmed down. She would tell him everything was okay. She would be there for him. This prince needed the same thing. Law or no law. Protocol or no protocol. Royalty or no royalty. G1 took a deep breath. Then she started walking toward the crying child. The guards saw her coming. They moved to block her path. "Stop," one of them commanded. "Do not approach the prince." But G1 kept walking. "Move," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "That child needs help. Now move." The diner shook again. Another crack spread across the window. The lights went out for a second, then came back on. Time was running out. The guards looked at each other again. Finally, they stepped aside. Maybe they knew she was right. Maybe they were just desperate. Maybe they thought a human couldn't possibly matter to a prince of the empire. G1 walked up to the booth. She stood next to the crying prince. His power washed over her like heat from a fire. Her hair stood up. Her skin tingled. But she didn't stop. She knelt down beside him. And then, breaking every rule and law and protocol of the mighty Drakmor Empire, she reached out her hand and gently touched his shoulder. The moment G1's hand touched the prince's shoulder, something changed. The glowing slowed down. The floating objects wobbled in the air. The terrible wailing sound became a little quieter. Not much, but enough to notice. The prince turned his head. His golden eyes, full of tears, looked at G1. He seemed confused, surprised, like he couldn't believe someone had actually touched him. "Hey," G1 said softly. She used the same voice she used with her little brother. Gentle and calm. "It's okay. You're okay. No touching," one of the guards shouted. He took a step forward. "Human, you have broken imperial law." G1 ignored him. She kept her eyes on the little prince. "My name is G1. What's your name?" The prince's mouth opened, but only a sob came out. More tears rolled down his scaled cheeks. They sparkled like diamonds as they fell. "That's okay," G1 said. "You don't have to talk. Just breathe with me, okay? In and out. Nice and slow." She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "See, like that." The prince watched her. Then, very slowly, he tried to copy her. He breathed in. His little chest rose. He breathed out. Some of the glow around his body faded. "Good job," G1 said. She smiled at him. "You're doing great." "Let's do it again." They breathed together. In and out. In and out. Slowly, the prince's crying became softer. The energy in the air began to settle. The floating objects started to drift back down to the table. The shaking stopped. Daishik stood behind the counter with his mouth hanging open. The few customers who remained in the diner stared in shock. The guards stood perfectly still, like they didn't know what to do. "What's wrong?" G1 asked the prince. "Why are you so sad?" The prince's golden eyes filled with fresh tears. His voice came out small and broken. I want, what do you want? Ji-won asked gently. I want my mama, the prince wailed. And then he was crying again, but this time it was different. This wasn't the powerful, dangerous crying from before. This was just the crying of a sad little boy. Normal crying. The crying of a child who missed someone. Ji-won's heart broke. She understood now. This wasn't about food or the diner or anything else. This child was grieving. He had lost his mother. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. Without thinking about laws or rules or anything else, she reached out and pulled the little prince into her arms. She hugged him close, just like she would hug her own brother. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The prince buried his face in her shoulder. His small body shook with sobs. His little hands grabbed onto her uniform. He held on like she was the only solid thing in the universe. Stop, one of the guards shouted. Release the prince immediately. No, Ji-won said. She didn't let go. She just held the crying child and let him cry. He needs this. Can't you see that? He needs someone to hold him. It is forbidden, another guard said. The imperial heir may only be touched by members of the royal family. Then your law is stupid, Ji-won said. Her voice was sharp now, angry. He's a child, a baby. He lost his mother and you won't even let anyone hug him? What kind of people are you? The guards didn't answer. They just stood there with their weapons and their armor and their rules. The prince kept crying into Ji-won's shoulder. She rocked him gently back and forth like her own mother used to rock her. She stroked his head, careful not to touch the little crown. His scales felt warm and smooth under her hand. Like touching warm glass, it's okay to cry, she told him. It's okay to be sad. Your mama loved you very much, didn't she? The prince nodded against her shoulder. She used to hold me, he whispered, every night. Before sleep. She would sing to me, tell me stories. But then she got sick. And then she left, Ji-won finished softly. And no one would hold you anymore. Another nod. More tears soaked into her uniform. How long ago? Ji-won asked. 6 months, one of the guards answered. His voice was quieter now. Almost sad. The empress died 6 months ago. Since then, no one may touch the prince. It is the mourning law. For 5 years, the prince must mourn alone. It is tradition. Ji-won looked up at the guard. She felt anger rise in her chest. 5 years? You're going to make a 6-year-old child go 5 years without a hug? Without comfort? That's not mourning. That's torture. It is our way, the guard said, but he sounded less certain now. Your way is wrong, Ji-won said firmly. She looked back down at the prince. When did you last eat a real meal? Not fancy royal food. Just something warm and good? The prince didn't answer. He just held on to her tighter. Ji-won looked at Daeshik. Can you make some warm milk? And do we have any cookies? Something sweet? Daeshik still looked shocked, but he nodded. Yes, we have cookies. Chocolate chip. From Earth, perfect, Ji-won said. Bring them here. And bring some tissues, too. Daeshik rushed to the kitchen. The guards shifted their feet but didn't try to stop anything. Maybe they realized that the prince had finally stopped glowing, finally stopped breaking things. He was calm now. Sad but calm. Ji-won adjusted her position so she could sit next to the prince on the booth seat. She kept one arm around him. He didn't let go of her uniform. His face was still buried against her side. My little brother is about your age, Ji-won told him. His name is Dong-woo. He cries sometimes too, usually when he's scared or lonely. I always tell him the same thing. What? The prince asked. His voice was muffled against her uniform. I tell him that it's okay to feel sad, that everyone feels sad sometimes, even strong people, even brave people. Crying doesn't make you weak. It just means you're human. She paused. Well, you're not human, but you know what I mean. It means you have feelings. That's good. The prince pulled back a little. He looked at her with his wet, golden eyes. But I'm a prince. Father says princes must be strong. We cannot show weakness. The empire needs strong leaders. Being strong doesn't mean you can't cry, Ji-won said. She wiped his cheeks with her hand, brushing away the tears. Being strong means you can cry when you need to, and then get back up again. The strongest people I know aren't the ones who never cry. They're the ones who cry and then keep going anyway. The prince thought about this. His little face scrunched up as he considered her words. Daeshik came back with a tray. On it was a glass of warm milk and a plate of cookies. He set it down on the table carefully like he was handling explosives. Then he backed away quickly. "Here," Ji-won said. "Let's have a snack. Crying makes you thirsty." She picked up the glass of milk and handed it to the prince. He took it with both hands. His hands were small with tiny scales on the back. He drank a little sip. Then another. Then a longer drink. "Good?" Ji-won asked. He nodded. A tiny smile appeared on his face. Just for a second, but it was there. "Now try a cookie," she said. "These are from my home world, Earth. We make them with chocolate." "You know chocolate?" The prince shook his head. He picked up a cookie and took a small bite. His eyes went wide. He chewed slowly. Then he took another bite. "A bigger one. Good, right?" Ji-won said, smiling. "Very good," the prince said. His voice was still quiet, but he wasn't crying anymore. He ate another cookie. Then he drank more milk. His scales had stopped glowing completely. He looked like a normal little boy having a snack. Ji-won felt someone watching her. She looked up and saw all the guards staring. Their helmets hid their faces, but she could feel their eyes. They seemed amazed, confused, maybe a little ashamed. One guard stepped forward. He was bigger than the others. He had more decorations on his armor. "Probably the leader, human woman," he said. His voice was different now. Not cold anymore. "You have done what we could not. The prince has been crying every day for 6 months. Nothing helped. We tried everything, but we could not touch him. The law forbade it. The law is stupid," Ji-won said again. "Some laws need to be broken." "Perhaps," the guard said slowly. "Perhaps you are right." The prince finished his milk. He set down the glass and looked at Ji-won. "What is your name again?" "Ji-won," she said. "I work here. I'm a waitress, and will you hold me again?" he asked. His voice was so small, so hopeful. "Just for a little while?" Ji-won's heart melted. "Of course, sweetheart. Come here." The prince climbed into her lap. He curled up against her chest like a baby. She wrapped both arms around him and held him close. He let out a long, shaky breath, like he had been holding it in for 6 months. His body relaxed completely. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome," Ji-won whispered back. They sat like that for a long time. The diner was quiet now. The guards stood watch but didn't interfere. Daeshik cleaned tables and tried not to stare. A few brave customers came back inside and sat down to eat, talking in hushed whispers. The prince's breathing became slow and steady. His eyes closed. Within minutes he was asleep in Ji-won's arms, peaceful at last. One of the guards spoke into his wrist device. "The prince is stable. Situation contained. But we have a problem. Someone touched the air. A human, what are your orders?" A voice crackled back through the device. Ji-won couldn't hear the words, but she saw all the guards stand up straighter. They looked at each other. Then the leader guard spoke, understood. "The Emperor is coming here personally." Ji-won's stomach dropped. The Dragon Emperor, the most powerful being in the galaxy. He was coming here, to this small diner, because she had broken his law and touched his son. She looked down at the sleeping prince in her arms. So peaceful now, so calm. She didn't regret what she did. Not for a second. If the Emperor wanted to punish her, so be it. This child had knew the wait was terrible. Ji-won sat in the booth with the sleeping prince in her arms. She didn't dare move. Every minute felt like an hour. The guards stood around her like statues. They didn't speak. They barely breathed. The whole diner had gone silent. Daeshik kept glancing at the door, then at Ji-won, then back at the door. His face was pale. He was sweating. "This is bad," he kept muttering. "This is very, very bad." Other workers had stopped what they were doing. Bick the cook stood in the kitchen doorway, his 3 eyes wide. The other waitress, a young woman named Hanul, hid behind the counter. She looked terrified. "You should run," Hanul whispered to Ji-won. "Before he gets here, just run. Maybe you can get to a shuttle." "Leave the station." Ji-won shook her head. "I'm not running. I didn't do anything wrong." "You touched the Imperial air," Hanul said. "That's punishable by death." "Everyone knows that." "Then I'll die," Ji-won said quietly. "But I'm not sorry. Look at him." She nodded down at the sleeping prince. "He's peaceful now. He needed this. Someone had to help him." Hanul shook her head and went back to hiding. Daeshik wrung his hands. The guards remained silent, and Ji-won just sat there holding a sleeping child, waiting for the most powerful being in the galaxy to arrive. 20 minutes passed. then 30. The prince slept on. His small body was warm against Ji-won's chest. His breathing was deep and steady. Sometimes he made little sounds in his sleep, like her brother used to do. She stroked his head gently, avoiding the crown. His scales were surprisingly soft. Then the guards all straightened at once. Their hands went to their weapons. The leader spoke into his device. Confirmed. He's here. The diner's main door opened, but this time no chime sounded. The air itself seemed to change. It felt heavier, charged with energy. The lights flickered. Every person in the diner felt it. The presence of something vast and powerful approaching. More guards entered first. These were different from the ones already in the diner. Their armor was gold and black. They carried bigger weapons. They spread out quickly, checking every corner, every table, every person, making sure there were no threats. Then he entered. Emperor Hyunwoo, the Dragon Emperor, ruler of 1,000 worlds. Ji-won had never seen anyone like him. He was tall, much taller than any human. His scales were deep red like blood, with edges that looked like gold. 2 massive horns curved back from his head. His eyes were the same golden color as his son's, but they burned brighter, hotter, like staring into twin suns. He wore robes that seemed to shift and move on their own, as if made from liquid metal. Power radiated from him like heat from a star. Everyone in the diner dropped to their knees. Everyone except Ji-won. She couldn't kneel. She was holding the prince, and she wouldn't wake him up. Not for anyone. Not even for an emperor. Hyunwoo's burning eyes scanned the diner. They found the booth where Ji-won sat. They found his son sleeping peacefully in a stranger's arms. The emperor stopped walking. He just stared. The silence was absolute. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The entire universe seemed to hold still. Then the emperor walked forward. His footsteps made no sound, but Ji-won could feel each one. Like small earthquakes, he came closer, closer. He stopped right next to the booth. He looked down at his sleeping son. His face was impossible to read. Was he angry? Sad, relieved? Ji-won couldn't tell. She looked up at him and tried not to show her fear. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "You are the one who touched my son," the emperor said. His voice was deep. It rumbled like thunder, but it wasn't loud. He spoke softly, almost gently. "Yes," Ji-won said. Her voice shook only a little. "I did. You know the law?" "Yes." "You know the punishment?" "Yes." The emperor tilted his head. "Then why did you do it?" Ji-won took a breath. Because he needed help. He was crying. He was scared and lonely and sad. And nobody would help him. Your guards said they couldn't touch him. But he's just a little boy. He lost his mother. He needed someone to hold him. To tell him it would be okay. So I did. The emperor's eyes narrowed. "You broke imperial law for this?" "I did what any decent person would do," Ji-won said. She was surprised by how steady her voice was now. "Law or no law, you don't leave a crying child alone." "That's wrong. I don't care who he is or who his father is. A child is a child." One of the gold-armored guards moved forward. "Your Majesty, shall we arrest her?" The emperor held up one hand. The guard stopped immediately. Hyunwoo kept looking at Ji-won. Then slowly he looked down at his sleeping son. The hard expression on his face began to change. It softened. Just a little. Just enough to see. "How long has he been asleep?" the emperor asked. "About 40 minutes, Ji-won said. 40 minutes, the emperor repeated. He sounded amazed. "He has not slept more than an hour at a time in 6 months. The doctors gave him medicines. Nothing worked. He would cry himself awake. Every night. Every single night. He was sad," Ji-won said simply. Nobody was comforting him. Your law said no one could touch him. But children need to be held when they're sad, especially when they lose someone they love. The emperor closed his eyes. For a moment, the mighty ruler looked tired, very tired. The mourning law is ancient. It has been our way for 10,000 years. When someone of royal blood dies, their immediate family must mourn in isolation. No physical comfort. It is meant to honor the dead, to show the depth of our loss. It's meant to torture the living, Ji-won said. She knew she should probably be more respectful, more careful with her words. But she was too angry now. Your son is 6 years old. He doesn't understand honor or tradition. He just knows his mother is gone and nobody will hold him. That's not mourning. That's cruelty. The emperor's eyes snapped open, his golden gaze fixed on Ji-won. She thought he might be angry now, might punish her for speaking so boldly, but instead he said something she didn't expect. "You are right." Ji-won blinked. "What?" "You are right," the Emperor said again. He looked at his son. Really looked at him. "I have been a fool. I followed the law because it is the law. Because it is what we have always done. I thought I was honoring my wife's memory, but I was hurting our son. I see that now." He reached out slowly. His large hand, covered in red scales, moved toward the prince's head. He hesitated. His hand shook slightly. Then gently, so gently, he touched his son's head. He stroked the small scales between the little horns. The prince stirred. His eyes opened slowly. He looked confused for a moment. Then he saw his father standing there. His eyes went wide. "Father," he said. His voice was sleepy and small. "I am here, Teo," the Emperor said. His voice was soft. Softer than Ji-won thought possible. "I am here. You touched me," Teo said. He sounded amazed. "But the law is wrong," Hyun-woo said. "I was wrong. I should have held you every day since your mother died. I should have comforted you. I am your father. That is more important than any law." Tears filled the little prince's eyes again. But these were different tears. Not sad tears. Happy tears. "Father," he whispered. The Emperor reached down and lifted his son from Ji-won's arms. He held the boy against his chest. Teo wrapped his small arms around his father's neck and buried his face in the red scales. He started to cry, but it was the crying of relief, of release, of finally being held by the person he needed most. Hyun-woo held his son close. One of his large hands supported the boy's back. The other cradled his head. The mighty emperor who ruled 1,000 worlds stood in the middle of a small diner and held his crying child. And he cried too. Tears rolled down his scaled cheeks and fell to the floor like drops of liquid gold. All around them, guards stood with their heads bowed. Some of them were crying too, though they tried to hide it. Even Daeshik wiped his eyes with his apron. Hanyul sobbed behind the counter. Ji-won sat in the booth and watched. Her arms felt empty now, but her heart felt full. This was what needed to happen. Father and son together, comforting each other, finally breaking through the wall of law and tradition and pride. After a long moment, the Emperor looked at Ji-won over his son's head. His golden eyes met her brown ones. "What is your name, human?" "Ji-won," she said. "Just Ji-won. Just Ji-won," the Emperor repeated. A small smile appeared on his face. It looked strange there, like the sun smiling. "You have done something no one else in my empire could do. Not my advisors, not my generals, not my doctors. You, a simple waitress from a small diner, have helped my son, have helped me. You showed me that some laws must be broken, that some traditions must end. That being a father is more important than being an emperor. I just did what felt right," Ji-won said. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Hyun-woo said firmly. "Not anyone. Most people would have been too afraid, too worried about rules, too concerned with power and consequence. But you saw a suffering child and you helped him. You risked your life to show him kindness. That is not common. That is rare. That is precious." He adjusted his hold on Teo, who had stopped crying now. The prince looked at Ji-won and smiled. A real smile, bright and genuine. "Thank you, Ji-won," Teo said. "You were nice to me. You held me like Mama used to. That made me feel better." "You're welcome, sweetheart," Ji-won said. She smiled back at him. The Emperor was quiet for a moment. His eyes were distant, like he was thinking hard about so. Ji-won stared at the Emperor. Her mind was spinning. Go to the palace? Care for the prince? Leave her life here? It was too much, too big, too impossible. I can't, she said. I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about being a royal caretaker. I don't know your customs, your traditions. I would make mistakes. I would embarrass you. You already broke our most sacred mourning law, Hyun-woo said. A hint of amusement touched his voice. And in doing so, you saved my son from his grief. You showed me my own failure as a father. If you can do that, you can do anything. But I have a job here, Ji-won said. She looked at Daeshik. I can't just leave. The diner needs me. Daeshik's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Finally, he found his voice. Ji-won, the Emperor is asking you to work for him. You should go. We'll manage here. Don't worry about us. I send money to my family on Earth, Ji-won said. They need it. My mother is sick. My younger siblings are in school. I can't stop working. Your family will be taken care of, Hyunwoo said. I will pay you 10 times what you earn here. No, 20 times. Money will never be a concern for your family again. Your mother will have the best doctors. Your siblings will go to the best schools. Whatever they need, they will have. 20 times her salary. Ji-won's head spun. That was more money than she could imagine. Her mother could get treatment. Real treatment. Not the cheap kind that barely helped. Her siblings could go to university. They would never have to struggle like she did. But still, she hesitated. This is your son, she said. The heir to the empire. I'm human. Won't your people be angry? Won't they think it's wrong for a human to care for him? Let them think what they want, the emperor said. His voice was hard now, firm. I am the emperor. What I say is law, and I say that you are the right person for this task. You have already proven it. Teo lifted his head from his father's shoulder. He looked at Ji-won with his golden eyes. Please, Ji-won, he said. Please come with us. Don't leave me. You make me feel safe, like when Mama was here. Those words broke something in Ji-won's heart. How could she say no to that? How could she leave this child alone again? She thought of her own brother. If something happened to their mother, if he needed someone to help him, she would want someone kind to be there. Someone who cared. I have conditions, Ji-won said. Her voice was shaky but determined. If I come, I do this my way. I treat Teo like a normal child. Not just a prince. He eats regular food sometimes, not just fancy royal meals. He plays, he laughs. He learns to be a kid. And if your laws try to stop me from doing what's best for him, I break those laws, just like I did today. A smile spread across the emperor's face. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. You would make demands of an emperor? For Teo, yes, Ji-won said. If I'm going to do this, I do it right. Your way hasn't been working. Let me try my way, Hyunwoo laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that filled the diner. Very well, Ji-won. You have my word. You will care for my son in your way, and anyone who interferes will answer to me. Then I'll do it, Ji-won said. She took a deep breath. I'll come to the palace. Taeyo's face lit up with joy. Really? You really will? Really, Ji-won said. She stood up from the booth. Her legs were shaky. This was happening. This was really happening. When do we leave? Now, the emperor said. We have a ship waiting. You can collect your things. I don't have much, Ji-won said. Just some clothes in my apartment. It won't take long. We will send someone to get them, Hyunwoo said. You come with us now. Teo needs you. The guards moved to escort them out. But before they left, Ji-won turned to Dae-shik. Thank you for the job. For being patient with me. I'm sorry to leave like this. Dae-shik shook his head. His eyes were wet with tears. Don't apologize. You're going to do something amazing. You're going to help the prince. I'm proud of you, Ji-won. Your mother will be proud too. Ji-won hugged him quickly. Then she hugged Hanul, who was crying openly now. Bick gave her a salute with one of his 3 arms. The other customers in the diner clapped. They had witnessed something incredible today. A moment that would become legend. The emperor led the way out of the diner. His guards surrounded them in a protective formation. Teo held his father's hand on one side and reached out for Ji-won's hand on the other. She took it without hesitation. His small hand was warm in hers. They walked through the station. People stopped and stared. The Dragon Emperor walking through a public station was rare enough. But walking hand in hand with his son, and with a human woman beside them, that was unprecedented. Whispers followed them everywhere. Is that the prince? Who is that human woman? Why is she holding the prince's hand? Did the mourning law change? Ji-won tried to ignore the stares. She focused on Teo, who skipped a little as he walked. He was still sad, she could tell. But there was hope in his eyes now. Something that hadn't been there before. They reached the Imperial docking bay. Ji-won gasped. The ship was massive. It was beautiful. It looked like a dragon made of metal and light. Golden patterns covered its surface. It seemed to glow from within. This is your ship? Ji-won asked. One of them, Hyunwoo said casually. We have several. They boarded through a wide ramp. Inside, everything was luxurious. The floors were smooth stone that felt warm under her feet. The walls had moving patterns that shifted like water. Lights floated in the air without any source. It was like walking into a dream. Servants bowed as they passed. They wore elegant robes and moved with practiced grace. Their eyes went wide when they saw Ji-won, but they said nothing. No one would question the emperor. Hyunwoo led them to a comfortable room with large windows. "Sit," he said. "The journey to the palace will take several hours." Ji-won sat on a couch that adjusted to her body. It was the most comfortable thing she had ever felt. Teo climbed up next to her and leaned against her side. The emperor sat across from them. For a moment, they just looked at each other. "Tell me about my son," Hyunwoo said. "What did you see that we did not?" Ji-won thought about how to answer. "I saw a lonely child. Everyone around him was treating him like something precious and breakable. They were so worried about rules and respect that they forgot he was just a little boy. He didn't need servants. He needed a hug." The emperor nodded slowly. His mother understood this. She always said that he was a child first and a prince second. I agreed with her when she was alive. But when she died, he paused. His voice became thick with emotion. "When she died, I did not know what to do. The advisors said to follow the mourning law. They said it was tradition, important. I thought if I followed the law, I was honoring her memory. But I was wrong. I was hiding behind tradition because I did not know how to face my grief." "Or his. Grief is hard," Ji-won said softly. "There's no right way to do it. But pushing away the people who need us isn't the answer. You both lost someone important. You should have been helping each other." "I see that now," Hyunwoo said. He reached over and put his hand on Taeyo's head. The prince smiled and leaned into the touch. "Thank you for showing me. Thank you for being brave enough to break our laws when they needed to be broken." The ship began to move. Ji-won felt a gentle hum beneath her. Through the windows, she watched the station grow smaller. Then they accelerated, and space became a blur of stars. Teo yawned. The emotional day was catching up with him. "I'm sleepy," he said. "Then sleep," Ji-won said. "You're safe now. Will you stay?" he asked. "Will you be here when I wake up?" "I'll be here," Ji-won promised. "I'm not going anywhere," Teo smiled. He curled up on the couch with his head in Ji-won's lap. Within minutes, he was asleep again. Ji-won stroked his head gently like she did for her brother. The emperor watched them. His expression was complex, sad and grateful and thoughtful all at once. "You are good with him," he said quietly. "I have practice," Ji-won said. "My little brother needs a lot of comfort. Our father left when we were young. Our mother works 3 jobs. I raised Dongwoo as much as she did. I learned to recognize when a child needs something even if they can't say it. This experience makes you perfect for this role," Hyunwoo said. "But it will not be easy. The imperial court is full of people who resist change. They will not like a human caring for the prince. They will challenge you, test you, try to make you fail." "Let them try," Ji-won said. Her voice was steady. "I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for Teo. As long as I'm helping him, I don't care what anyone else thinks." The emperor smiled. "You are stronger than you look, Ji-won from Earth. My son is lucky to have found you." "I think I'm the lucky one," Ji-won said. She looked down at the sleeping prince. "He's a good kid. He just needs someone to remind him it's okay to be a kid." They sat in comfortable silence as the ship traveled through space. Ji-won watched the stars blur past. Her old life was behind her now. Her small apartment, her job at the diner, her simple, predictable days. All of it was gone, but ahead was something new, something important. A child who needed her, a chance to make a real difference. It was terrifying and exciting all at once. She thought of her mother back on Earth. What would she think when Ji-won called to explain? Would she understand? Would she be proud? Ji-won hoped so. She was doing this for Teo, yes, but she was also doing it for her family, for the better life they could have now. The emperor stood up. "Rest if you want." The palace was beyond anything Ji-won could have imagined. The ship landed on a platform made of crystal that glowed with inner light. When she stepped out, she saw towers that reached into the clouds. Gardens floated in the air, held up by nothing. Waterfalls flowed upward instead of down. The sky was purple with 3 moons hanging in it. "Welcome to Drakmora Prime," the emperor said. "The heart of the empire." Teo held Ji-won's hand tightly. He had woken up during the landing, but he stayed close to her, like he was afraid she might disappear if he let go. Servants lined the path to the main palace. There were hundreds of them, all different species from across the empire. They bowed as the emperor passed, but their eyes followed Ji-won. She could feel their confusion, their judgment. A human here, holding the prince's hand. Ji-won lifted her chin and kept walking. She wouldn't let them intimidate her. She was here for Teo. Nothing else mattered. They entered the palace through massive doors covered in carvings. Inside, everything was gold and red and black. The floors were polished so smooth they reflected like mirrors. Columns rose up so high that Ji-won couldn't see the ceiling. Tapestries hung on the walls showing the history of the empire. Battles, conquests, ceremonies. "The court is waiting," one of the guards informed the emperor. "They request an immediate audience." Hyun-woo frowned. "Very well, Ji-won, come with me. It is better to face them now rather than delay." "Face who?" Ji-won asked. "The imperial advisors. The nobles. The people who help me run the empire." He paused. "And the people who will not be happy about your presence here." They walked through corridor after corridor. Teo stayed pressed against Ji-won's side. Finally, they reached two enormous doors. Guards pushed them open. The throne room was massive. The ceiling was a dome that showed the night sky. Real stars twinkled overhead. The floor was dark stone with veins of gold running through it. And everywhere there were people. Hundreds of them. All dressed in fine robes. All wearing expressions of shock and disapproval. At the far end of the room sat a throne. It looked like it was carved from a single ruby. It glowed with red light. The emperor walked to it and sat down. Teo tried to follow, but an advisor stepped forward. "The prince should stand with the court," the advisor said. He was an old Drakmor with gray scales and tired eyes. "It is not proper for him to stand with her." Teo's hand tightened around Ji-won's. "I want to stay with Ji-won." "Your Highness, that is not appropriate," the advisor said. He looked at Ji-won with barely hidden disgust. "This human should not even be in the throne room. She is not of royal blood. She is not even of our species. She is here because I commanded it," the emperor said. His voice echoed through the room. Everyone fell silent. "Ji-won will be my son's caretaker. She will have free access to the palace. She will have authority over his daily care. Anyone who interferes with her duties will answer to me personally." The room exploded with noise. Nobles shouted. Advisors protested. A woman with purple scales stepped forward. She wore robes covered in jewels. "Your Majesty, this is unacceptable. The prince needs a proper caretaker, someone who understands our ways, our culture, our traditions. Not some alien who knows nothing of the empire." "Ji-won knows what my son needs," Hyun-woo said. "Something none of you knew. He was suffering, crying every day, and none of you could help him. She could. In 1 hour, she did what all of you could not do in 6 months. She broke the mourning law," another advisor shouted. "She should be punished, not rewarded." "The mourning law was wrong," the emperor said. His voice was hard as stone. "I am abolishing it. Effective immediately. No child will ever be forced to mourn in isolation again. Tradition should protect our children, not harm them. Any law that causes suffering needs to change." The nobles looked stunned. Some looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. The old advisor with gray scales spoke again. "Your Majesty, if you change this law, you set a dangerous precedent. People will think they can challenge any tradition, any law. The empire has stood for 10,000 years because of our traditions, because of our stability. The empire has stood because we are strong," Hyun-woo said. "And strength means knowing when to change, when to adapt. My wife understood this. She always said that tradition should serve the people, not the other way around. I failed to listen when she was alive. I will not fail again." Ji-won watched all of this with wide eyes. She had started something bigger than she realized. She had just wanted to help a crying child. She hadn't meant to start a political revolution. Teo tugged on her hand. "Are they mad at you?" he whispered. "A little bit," Ji-won whispered back. "But it's okay. Sometimes doing the right thing makes people mad." The prince thought about this. Then he let go of Ji-won's hand. He walked forward, standing between her and the angry nobles. His small voice rang out clearly. "Ji-won is my friend. She helped me when I was sad. She held me when nobody else would. If you want to be mad at someone, be mad at me. I was the one crying. I was the one who needed help." The room went silent. All eyes turned to the little prince. He stood there, small and brave, defending the human who had shown him kindness. Some of the nobles' expressions softened. Others still looked disapproving. The woman with purple scales stepped forward again. "Young prince, you do not understand. This is about more than friendship. This is about the dignity of the empire, about maintaining order. About what? Teo interrupted. His golden eyes blazed. About following rules that hurt people. My mama would not want that. She always said to be kind. To help others. Ji-won helped me. That's all that matters. The woman looked at the emperor. Hyunwoo stood from his throne and walked to his son. He placed a hand on Teo's shoulder. My son speaks wisdom beyond his years. We have been so focused on order and tradition that we forgot compassion. We forgot that our first duty is to each other, not to laws written thousands of years ago. He looked around the room. I am the emperor. What I say becomes law. And I say this, Ji-won is now officially the prince's caretaker. She will live in the palace. She will have rooms near the prince's quarters. She will teach him, care for him, and help him grow. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. Anyone who interferes with her work interferes with my command. Is this clear? Slowly, reluctantly, the nobles nodded. They didn't like it, but they would obey. The emperor had spoken. The woman with purple scales bowed stiffly. As you command, your majesty. But I must ask, what does this human know of raising a prince? Of preparing him for rule? Of teaching him the ways of the empire? Hyunwoo smiled. She knows the most important thing. She knows how to show love. How to provide comfort. How to see a child as a person, not as a title. The rest he will learn in time. But first he must heal. Ji-won will help him do that, the audience ended. The nobles filed out, still muttering to each other. Some shot dark looks at Ji-won. Others just looked confused. But they left. And Ji-won, Teo, and the emperor remained. That went well, Ji-won said dryly. Hyunwoo laughed. Better than I expected. At least no one challenged me to ritual combat. That's a thing? Ji-won asked, alarmed. Not anymore, the emperor said. I abolished it 300 years ago. Too messy. He looked at her seriously. They will make your life difficult, Ji-won. They will test you. Question you. Try to prove you are not worthy of this position. Let them, Ji-won said. I didn't come here to impress nobles. I came here for Teo. And that is why you are perfect for this role, Hyunwoo said. He gestured to a guard. Show Ji-won to her quarters. Make sure she has everything she needs. The guard bowed and motioned for Ji-won to follow. But Teo grabbed her hand again. Can I come too? I want to see where Ji-won will live. Of course, Ji-won said. Let's go see my new room. They walked through the palace together. The guard led them to a wing that had large windows overlooking the gardens. He opened a door to reveal a suite of rooms that was bigger than Ji-won's entire apartment back on the station. There was a bedroom with a bed so large it could fit 5 people. A bathroom with a pool-sized tub, a sitting room with comfortable furniture, and a small kitchen, though the guard explained that servants would bring all her meals. This is too much, Ji-won said. I don't need all this space. You are the prince's caretaker, the guard said. You must live according to your station. Teo ran around exploring. He found a balcony and called Ji-won over. The view was incredible. She could see the entire palace complex. The floating gardens. The crystal towers. The 3 moons hanging in the purple sky. Do you like it? Ineo asked. It's beautiful, Ji-won said honestly. Very different from my home. But beautiful. Will you be happy here? The prince looked worried. I don't want you to be sad. Ji-won knelt down so she was eye level with him. I'll be happy if you're happy. That's all I care about. Are you happy? Teo thought about it. I'm not all the way happy yet. I still miss Mama. I still feel sad sometimes. But I feel better than before. You make me feel safe, like maybe things will be okay. Things will be okay, Ji-won promised. It will take time. Healing always takes time, but we'll get through it together. You, me, and your father. We're going to help each other. Teo hugged her tightly. Ji-won hugged him back. The guard looked away. Given, he said. I will return soon. There,